Tonight on The Night Team. A violent 24 hours in Louisville has left at least 3 people dead and 5 others injured. Police asking for your help in these multiple violent acts. Plus, a push to reopen the Louisville Juvenile Detention Center as soon as possible amid an influx of youth violence in the city.
We need a detention center here in Louisville, and we need it yesterday.
And later, Kentucky's Supreme Court is set to decide if public dollars in the state should fund charter schools.
I think the ultimate form of accountability in a charter school is going to be whether or not families choose to attend.
We have the arguments right now on the WHAS11 Night Team. LMPD is currently investigating several acts of violence that happened in the past 24 hours, where 3 people have been killed and 5 others are injured. Thanks for joining us here on the Night Team. I'm Alex Dieterer. We start in the Shawnee neighborhood. Just before 3:30 this afternoon, LMPD officers found a woman dead from multiple gunshot wounds in a wooded area near the Shawnee boat ramp near Shawnee Park Drive. And in the Valley Station neighborhood, a woman is dead after being stabbed several times early this morning. That happened just before 7 a.m. at a home on Autumn Way. When LMPD officers arrived, they found an adult woman suffering from multiple stab wounds. She did die at the scene. LMPD is also investigating a shooting after a man was found shot dead inside a vehicle this morning in the Phoenix Hill neighborhood. This happened just before 11 a.m. near East Muhammad Ali Boulevard and South Clay Street. LMPD says they found an adult man dead inside of a vehicle. LMPD's homicide unit is investigating all of these 3 cases. And 3 people are injured after being shot in a drive-by shooting in the Algonquin neighborhood. LMPD was called to JJ's Food Mart on Dixie Highway just before 9 last night. That's in between West Lee Street and West Gulbert Avenue. There, officers found 3 adults who were shot. A 19-year-old was shot in the arm, a 41-year-old man was shot in the thigh, and a 67-year-old woman shot in the leg. All 3 of these victims were taken to a local hospital and are expected to survive. At this time, LMPD says the only information they have is a dark-colored vehicle shot at the group at the Food Mart before speeding away. The violence continues in Louisville. 2 other shootings happened overnight. One happened at a club called Legends on West Broadway. LMPD says there was a large crowd scattering from a shooting. An 18-year-old was shot and taken to a hospital where he is expected to survive. The other shooting happened near the Park Hill neighborhood, where a woman was shot and taken to a hospital but is also expected to survive. LMPD asks anyone with information to call the anonymous tip line. That number is 574-LMPD. Metro Council members are joining in a bipartisan agreement that Louisville's Juvenile Detention Center should reopen as soon as possible. The center closed back in 2019, and Council voted to move operations over to the state. Funding was also cut from the facility that same year. The Night Team's Clarice Shaley explains how Council members believe a quicker reopening of the center will combat a teen violence issue.
Louisville has a problem, and nobody seems to be wanting to take it serious, and that is juvenile crime.
Metro Council member Kevin Bratcher is spearheading a motion.
We need a detention center here in Louisville, and we need it yesterday.
Urging Governor Andy Beshear and the Kentucky Department of Juvenile Justice to expedite the reopening of the Juvenile Detention Center in Louisville, which Bratcher sees as a solution to a teen violence issue. The facility closed in 2019 and is supposed to open in 2027. The director of the Office of Violence Prevention told us earlier this month that violent crime is down, but kids committing crimes isn't lowering like other demographics.
And we need a place where we can set them down, have the clergy come talk to them, have the family come talk to them, have counselors here in Louisville come talk to them, and try to turn their life around before they turn 18 years old.
There's backing from Councilmember Tammy Hawkins, standing in her district's Algonquin Park, where there were teen violence instances at the beginning of the summer.
I think that it would definitely help be a part of the solution to reducing the crime. Yeah. I think it sets an example.
Councilmember Khalil Batshon sees it as an example and a deterrent for teens, supporting a need for it after a shooting at a Valley Station apartment complex resulted in a teen's murder. He says he talked to the property manager about complaints a week before the shooting.
Told them that they needed to actively work on off-duty police and addressing the issues that are happening at the community center. And then shortly after this happens, and it was just more than anything heartbreaking to me.
And there's support outside of the council too.
Definitely that's an avenue that needs to be taken by the city.
Will Pitts has worked in the community for years to prevent youth violence.
You need the detention center for the ones that just can't quite get their act together, if you know what I mean. You got to have a place to have some, you got to have that structure, as we call it, in place. There's no other way around.
Pitts has lost family to violence, sympathizing with the families across the metro already impacted by teen crime. For the WHAS 11 team, I'm Clarice Shaley on your side.
Metro Councilman Bratcher says kids are sent to detention facilities in Adair and Warren counties, and he believes they're released from the facilities too early, claiming some are day of. He's also criticizing a state law limiting juvenile stays in detention centers. Well, we have a scary situation involving a Racing Louisville FC player in their match out in Seattle tonight that led to the match being abandoned. Sports Director Ken Spencer has the latest on the situation. Ken?
Yeah, Alex, the situation involves Savannah DeMello, who has an autoimmune condition that leads to symptoms like chest tightness, dizziness, and a rapid heart rate. Due to some of the images of the medical emergency tonight, we are not going to show you the entire incident. In extra time of their game with the Seattle Reign in the first half, DeMello goes down to the ground, signaling something is wrong. What ends up happening, she would pass out on the field. Medical personnel rushed to her aid. The update from the club, DeMello was stable and alert after the incident and transported to a local hospital for further evaluation. As you can see, her teammates and everybody in the stadium extremely shaken up, watching it all play out. A situation similar to this has happened to DeMello before during a match with Racing. As for the remainder of the game, not that it matters, it will be rescheduled for a later date. For the night team, I'm Ken Spencer.
All right, thank you, Ken. And we now know the funeral arrangements for longtime Jefferson County Clerk Bobby Holzclaw. Visitation will be held from 1 to 8 p.m. on Monday, September 26th at Arch L. Hetty and Son at Westport Village. There will be Mass at Holy Spirit Catholic Church on Tuesday, September 23rd at 10 in the morning. Holzclaw passed away on Wednesday at the age of 81. She served as the county clerk since 1999. In lieu of flowers, memorial contributions can be given to WHAS Crusade for Children. For more information, you can visit our homepage, WHAS11.com. The highest court in Kentucky is set to decide if public dollars in this state should fund charter schools. This past Thursday, the Kentucky Supreme Court heard arguments on the case in Danville, Kentucky. WHAS 11's Alexandra Goldberg and senior photojournalist Alyssa Newton have the details.
This court is now in session.
The future of charter schools is in front of the Kentucky Supreme Court, meeting on the road in Danville, Kentucky.
The podium, the DNA of charter schools is focusing on at-risk kids, helping to close the achievement gaps in some of our urban areas in the state.
We do think that it will be, as the justices on the court implied with their questions, a drain on the public school system.
Council debating the constitutionality of House Bill 9, passed in 2022. It's already law and funded, but held up by lawsuits. It would give public dollars to charter schools. And in this Supreme Court case, there's a Richmond, Kentucky man named as defendant, Gus LaFontaine. I found him for an interview.
Yeah, we were an applicant for a charter to become a charter school in Madison County.
He wrote one of the first charters in Kentucky, nearly 1,000 pages. But when the district court intervened, plans came to a halt.
This type of school could really increase access for more Kentucky families to have choice over their child's education.
They can pick and choose which standards they choose to apply to them.
Corey Nichols, deputy counsel with the Kentucky Department of Education, says in House Bill 9, accountability falls to an independent board of directors. Justice Michelle Keller asking Solicitor General Matt Kuhn about that.
Who's going to be accountable, and how are we going to know, and how are the parents and taxpayers going to know whether the promises of the charter schools are being met?
If I can push back just gently on the premise of your question, the authorizer in almost all circumstances is going to be the local school board.
Do you believe that having an independent school board is enough accountability for a charter school?
I think the ultimate form of accountability in a charter school is going to be whether or not families choose to attend. They won't be compelled to attend your charter school. And so if it's not offering a service that is worthy of their participation, families will vote with their feet.
Now it's up to the justices to decide the timeline on when to release the decision. In Danville, Alexandra Goldberg, WHAS11 on your side. When House Bill 9 was written into law in 2022, the law mandated the creation of one charter school in northern Kentucky and one charter school in Jefferson County. In Indiana, the state passed a bill that requires public schools to share funding with charter schools. Tax dollars collected for schools must now be split between public and charter schools. Proponents believe this will open access to high-quality schools in underserved neighborhoods, but it does not increase the education budget, which has opponents worried the schools will drain already low resources from public schools. Charter schools will continue to get more than $1,000 per pupil under a state grant. It goes into effect starting 2028. 4 days after Charlie Kirk was shot and killed in Utah, a memorial service and prayer vigil was held tonight. Republican lawmakers, Trump administration officials, and more gathered at the Kennedy Center. Supporters called it a moment to unite and honor Kirk's life and legacy. Police say the suspect, Tyler Robinson, turned himself in, but today Utah's governor says he has not confessed and is refusing to cooperate. Investigators also dug into messages reportedly sent by the suspect on a messaging app just hours after the shooting. Robinson allegedly joking that his doppelganger did it.
They did not believe it was actually him. It was all joking until he admitted that it actually was him.
Formal charges could come as early as Tuesday. Robinson is being held on suspicion of aggravated murder, obstruction of justice, and felony discharge of a firearm.